just gave up? Did I sleep away the day cause I was tired? Or did I get tired cause I slept too much? Slept too much. We go up and down, we go up and down on this roller coaster ride, roller coaster ride. We fall back sometimes, we fall back sometimes on this roller coaster ride. In this roller coaster ride. See it coming, but I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't even know how to do this. I don't need a map like to show me how. Show me how. We go up and down. We go up and down on this roller coaster ride. Roller coaster ride. We fall back sometimes. We fall back sometimes on this roller coaster ride. In this roller coaster ride. In this roller coaster ride. We fall back sometimes. We fall back sometimes on this roller coaster ride. Roller coaster ride. Maybe I thought that I figured out a way to stay inside the box, living in the flow. Know that if I just keep trying, if I don't keep wasting time, we'll always show being on the go. In this roller coaster ride.
The roller coaster life. Our main focus in this session will be life isn't easy, but God is faithful. Our power verse, here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. Jesus speaks in John chapter 16, verse 33. What's up? I know God is faithful to me. In John chapter 16, verse 33, we learn that life is full of troubles and difficulties. Trouble is something that we will all find ourselves in. Life is like a roller coaster, full of ups and downs, twists and turns. In this lesson, the children will learn from the life of Elijah. They will see how God was faithful to Elijah through the ups and downs he experienced during the first moments of his calling as a prophet. Through the example of Elijah, the children will learn that they can trust God to be faithful to them during each of life's ups and downs. There is no need to panic. If we trust God, He will always come through just in time. the book of 1 Kings, chapter 17, we find a man named Elijah. He was a poor man from a poor town. There was nothing special about him, but that was about to change. God spoke to Elijah and told him that he was going to become God's prophet. His first assignment was to go before King Ahab with a very important message from God. King Ahab was an evil man. He had allowed the nation of Israel to stray away from God and begin to worship the idol Baal. Baal was known as the god of the weather. The people began worshipping Baal instead of God. Elijah went from being a nobody in a small town to standing before the king with a message. God says there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years. God wanted to show the people of Israel that He was the God that controlled the weather, and not Baal. King Ahab was not happy with Elijah's message. Immediately after Elijah delivered the message to King Ahab, he found himself running for his life. He went from a high point of standing before the king to a very low point of running for his life. He made his temporary home by a brook or river. Elijah had nothing to eat. He was starving. It looked like he would starve. But God did something amazing. God sent a whole flock of ravens to bring bread to Elijah every day. When Elijah would get hungry, God would send the ravens to bring him bread to eat. He also had all the water he needed because of the flowing brook. Elijah knew that God had been faithful to him. He gave thanks to God for his faithfulness. In the midst of the ups and downs of his life, God remained faithful to him. Today you will learn how God will do the same for you. When life's ups and downs cause things to feel like a roller coaster, God will be faithful. All we have to do is trust Him. He will take care of the rest. Today we learned about Elijah. He was a nobody, a poor man from a poor town. But God called him out of the small town in order to make him a prophet. He sent Elijah to stand before the king and deliver a message. Isn't that amazing? Elijah went from being a nobody to a very important somebody. God trusted him to deliver his message to the king. I think we can learn an important lesson from this. God can use anyone to do great things for Him. If God can use Elijah, a man with no special knowledge or training, a poor man from a poor town, then God can certainly use anyone. So often people say things like, I could never do anything big for God. After all, I am a nobody. I don't have any special talents. I don't have a lot of money or importance. Good news, neither did Elijah. We must make a decision that we will never disqualify ourselves from being used by God. God loves to use people that may seem unimportant and use them to change the world. He did it for Elijah, for others in the Bible, and he will do it for you. Elijah went from the lowest of lows, being a poor man from a poor town, to one of the highest of highs. He stood before King Ahab and delivered God's message. Pretty cool, huh? But then what happened? Suddenly, trouble comes. The king is angry, and Elijah is running for his life. Elijah went from the highest high to the lowest low again in no time flat. That teaches us a very important lesson. Life is full of ups and downs. In life, often trouble will come from out of nowhere. Just like our power verse teaches us today, here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. Another translation of the Bible says, in this world you will have trouble. That sure is true, isn't it? So what are some of the troubles that come our way? Disease, hunger, sadness, failure, and you might want to add a few more to this list. Pause a couple of seconds and ask yourself, what are some of the troubles that come in my own life? All of these troubles can come out of nowhere, just like a big drop on a roller coaster. We can be riding along high as a kite, and then suddenly trouble comes and it takes us low. That's what happened to Elijah, and that often happens to us. But there is good news. I can trust God because He is faithful. God proved Himself to be faithful to Elijah through his ups and downs. Even when it seemed like trouble was going to win, God provided food and water for Elijah. God was faithful to Elijah by sending ravens and a river. God will be faithful to us in many different ways. Even when it seems like we are at our lowest low, God is faithful. And how do we know? Because John chapter 16, verse 33 clearly says, "Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. But take heart, because I have overcome the world." God is stronger than our troubles. God is more faithful to us than we can ever imagine. We must trust Him like Elijah trusted Him. God will always come through. He will defeat trouble in our lives and prove Himself to be faithful. So I hope you guys came to class ready for a ride. Today you will board the craziest ride ever, the ride of life. Take a sheet of paper and on one side draw an arrow facing downwards, and on the other draw an arrow facing upwards. Simple, isn't it? I'll give you a few seconds to do that as quickly as you can. You are officially in line to board the craziest ride ever, the ride of life. The arrow that you have will be used as we go through the story. If you think Elijah is feeling down in the story, you should hold the arrow facing down. If you think Elijah is feeling up in the story, you should hold the arrow pointing up. Today, you will board the craziest ride ever, the ride of life. Hold on, because there will be lots of ups and downs. No need to worry though. You have a guide, and his name is Elijah. He has been on the crazy ride before, and he knows all the twists and turns. He will teach you how to survive and come out on the up side of life. I'm about to go through the first part of Elijah's story with you. You are holding an up and down arrow. During the story, if you think Elijah's feeling down, hold up the down arrow. If you think he's feeling up, hold up the up arrow. Are you ready? Let's start this ride. In the book of 1 Kings chapter 17, we find a man named Elijah. He was a poor man from a poor town. There was nothing special about him, but that was about to change. God spoke to Elijah and told him that he was going to become God's prophet. His first assignment was to go before the king Ahab with a very important message from God. I hope you're holding the arrows in the right direction as we read along. King Ahab was an evil man. He had allowed the nation of Israel to stray away from God and begin to worship the idol Baal. Baal was known as the god of the weather. the people began worshipping Baal instead of God. Elijah went from being a nobody in a small town to standing before the king with a message. God says there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years. God wanted to show the people of Israel that He was the God that controlled the weather, not Baal. King Ahab was not happy with Elijah's message. Immediately after Elijah delivered the message to King Ahab, he found himself running for his life. He went from a high point of standing before the king to a very low point of running for his life. He made his temporary home by a brook or river. Elijah had nothing to eat. He was starving. It looked like he would starve. But God did something amazing. God sent a whole flock of ravens to bring bread to Elijah every day. When Elijah would get hungry, God would send the ravens to bring him bread to eat. He also had all the water he needed because of the flowing brook. Elijah knew that God had been faithful to him. He gave thanks to God for his faithfulness. In the midst of the ups and downs of his life, God remained faithful to him. Are you beginning to see how Elijah's life was a lot like a roller coaster ride? God called Elijah to do great things for him, and almost immediately the ride started getting crazy. How do you think Elijah felt when he found himself running for his life? Do you think Elijah wondered if he had made a mistake when he had said yes to God? Elijah said yes to following God, and right away the ride got bumpy. I'm sure he wondered if God had a plan. Following God is a journey in learning to trust Him. Did God show Elijah that he could be trusted in our story? How? So now comes the assignment. All you've got to do is answer the following questions and send a snapshot back to your catechist. True or false? Elijah was a rich man from a rich town. What was Elijah's first assignment from God? What idol had the Israelites begun to worship? Baal was known as the god of the... What was the message Elijah delivered to King Ahab? How did King Ahab feel about Elijah's message? True or false? King Ahab had Elijah thrown in prison. Where did Elijah make his temporary home? How did God take care of Elijah's needs while he was hiding by the river? In conclusion, my friends, today's story was definitely full of ups and downs. Life tends to be that way. There will be days when things are great, and there will be days when it seems like everything is headed downhill fast. Life is a roller coaster with or without God. The awesome part about having God with you during the ride is that He is the safety bar that holds you steady through all the ups and downs. You can totally trust God to lock you in place and keep you safe even when things are going downhill, upside down, or crazy wild. We come in prayer. Maybe your life has been a little crazy lately. Things have been up and down, and you need to feel the safety that comes from trusting God. I want our group, our entire class, to pray for you today. If that is you, go ahead and raise your hand. And if someone beside you has their hand raised, I want you to pray with them. I know you can't see them, but I guess each one of us has a crazy life with its equal and fair share of ups and downs. So we will ask God to fill you with peace as you trust your life to Him. He will keep safe during the crazy ride of life. Elijah's story is going to be an amazing guide to learning how to ride the roller coaster of life. The first lesson he teaches us is that we can trust God with our lives, no matter what happens. You boarded the roller coaster of life the day you were born, and the ride is unpredictable for sure. It's great to know that God will come alongside you and lock you in place for a safe journey. In Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, we learn that we cannot lean on our own understanding. We may not always understand why things are happening in our lives, but God does. He has a plan and will make your bumpy parts straight when you trust Him.